You're listening to the Agency Podcast, marketing strategies for professionals and business owners. Learn from two industry experts who work on the front lines of digital advertising and find out how their agency generates millions of dollars in revenue for their clients. From industry news and trends to practical advice, discover the tools to grow your business online. Here are your hosts, Ryan Leach and James Crittenden, owners of Freshmove Media.
We're live. All right, welcome to episode 7 of the Agency Podcast, marketing strategies for professionals and business owners.
He has to read it off every single time.
One of these times I'll have that down.
He doesn't bother to remember the tagline of the podcast.
Someone else could lead in instead of me, but
it's actually
fine.
his tagline that he came up with.
Just wants to make sure he gets it right then.
Right. Well, we have a very special guest today that we're excited to have, and that is Rebekah Simmonds. She's a freelance graphic designer. We have an internal graphic designer here, but we do a lot of work with her when our inside resources are stretched, and so she does some phenomenal work. We're excited to pick her brain a little bit on all things graphic design. And so let's start off with you just kind of telling us a little bit about what got you into graphic design, a little bit about your story, and what you're passionate about.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thanks for having me, guys. I'm really excited to be here. Looking forward to our conversation today. I've always been just kind of a creative person, always really loved, working with people and helping just do creative things. That looks like a lot of different things, but that's always something that I've been passionate about. And so I actually went into college as a music business major and wanting to go into the music industry and do either artist management or booking or things like that. And so I went to a tiny little liberal arts college in Southern Illinois that no one on the East Coast has ever heard of.
What's it called?
Greenville University.
Never heard of it.
Yep. Everyone's like...
Not Greenville, North Carolina.
Exactly. That's
it's like this.
Yes, exactly. Really phenomenal school, though, but really, really tiny in the middle of a huge cornfield that just is Southern Illinois. But so they actually have a pretty reputable music business program, especially for the Midwest and that sort of thing. And I'm from the St. Louis, Southern Illinois area. So, ended up there for music business. And it's a liberal arts school. So it's very kind of interdisciplinary, very holistic education, that sort of thing. So through my music business major, I had to take an intro to digital media class, which, obviously had a ton of graphic design elements, and so that was my first true introduction to graphic design. And then kind of at the end of the class, because also class sizes were very small, that sort of thing, the professor was just like, "Hey, you're good at this. You should add this as a major." And I was like, "Oh, what? Like that? Okay, like cool, yeah, sure." So yeah.
Was that sophomore year or junior year?
That was the end of my freshman year. Starting my sophomore year, I added graphic design as a double major. I did finish out my music business major because I really do love the intersection of design and business. So I really still wanted to keep that business aspect because obviously with the music business major, I had all sorts of different business classes that went along with it, more than just music stuff, obviously. So that was kind of my first introduction to graphic design. And then kind of after my first actual real graphic design class, I was like, yeah, this is what I want to do.
So did you go into freelance or work for a company right after school or?
So when my first job, it was actually a marketing job right out of college. So I moved to Richmond right after I graduated. Within 3-4 weeks after graduating college, I moved here. And that's where I worked at Base Camp, where we actually met, which is funny. And so that was my first job out of college. I was the marketing coordinator there. Learned a lot, but not the right fit for me.
Working with real estate agents, you mean?
Yeah. And then I left that job and went to another real estate company as an in-house graphic designer there. And so I was there for a little while and then just kind of realized I wanted to do my own thing and run my own business and didn't want to be chained to a desk for 9 to 5 every day. I wanted to be able to move around, do my own thing, work with a lot of different types of people. Which was what led to freelancing. And so just kind of ripped the Band-Aid off and jumped in.
Rebekah Simmonds Designs was born, right?
Exactly, yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. I always did some kind of freelance stuff on the side, but mostly it was, whenever I decided to quit my full-time job and do it full-time, obviously that I really dove deep into it.
There you go. That's awesome.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, so first question we have for you, and, I think this is interesting because, we envisioned the listening audience being business owners, marketing professionals, but, generally speaking, a lot of small business owners don't have a creative eye all the time, right?
Right.
Because they did not get into business to be creative.
Right.
In many cases, it's maybe they have creativity towards their specialty or their skill. But design is not one of those things.
That, or they have this idea or the vision in their head of what they want it to look, and they always think it's going to be the most biggest, baddest logo on the planet. And you can make their exact vision, but in reality, it probably won't work from a business standpoint.
Yeah.
It doesn't convey your image. It's too busy or whatever. With the amount of logos we've seen, you can definitely tell as far as what that... I would say in the aspect of graphic design, the business owner also needs to learn to let go
Yes.
and listen to the expert. And also don't be cheap on your logo.
Yes.
Because the last thing you want to do is be cheap on your logo. And obviously in business, you want to expand and grow and make millions of dollars, right?
Yeah.
But if you have this shitty ass logo, right?
Yep.
And then you grow, let's say if you're a trades company, HVAC, right? It's just you and one truck. But then you grow to like 30 trucks and you have that same crap logo on all 30 trucks. It gets to a point where you're going to need to rebrand because your logo is crap. That logo rebrand is going to cost you a lot more than it did if you just did it right the first time.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah. The bigger you grow, the tens of thousands of dollars more in rebrand.
Like new apparel, signs,
Yeah.
business cards, letter. I mean, it goes down the list as far as everything you have to do.
Yeah.
But the last, to start this, I would say, conversation off is to tell the business owner not to get a logo from Fiverr or pay $5. I mean, when it comes to you get what you pay for, this is 100% within that aspect. I mean, it applies to everything. But when it comes to logo design, 100% you should not be paying like 99 Designs where you pay $99 or whatever for a damn logo, or $5 or $25. Pay professional and get it done right.
Or do it yourself with clip art in Microsoft Word.
Exactly.
Probably also not a good idea.
That's not a good idea. Yeah.
So what would you say, Bekah, what are some common mistakes that you've seen business owners make when it comes to a new logo or rebranding?
Yeah. Well, actually, that was a great segue because in my notes, I have not to hire someone from Fiverr or 99 Designs. So
if you have no money and you are bootstrapping it, like you have less than, say, $1,000 in your bank, if you're going to equate a certain percentage of dollar amounts to a logo, to a website, to whatever, then yes, fine, use Fiverr. But the second you get any sort of traction, you should make the pivot to have a
once
better
you have
logo.
paying customers and you're an established business.
Right.
But if you're a funded startup or an established business, paying to have the right logo makes sense.
Totally.
Yes, definitely. But yeah, so definitely not having a logo is a really bad thing. I've actually run into a lot of companies that just straight up don't have a logo.
Wow.
Or it's like a Times New Roman, like typed at the...
Comic Sans.
It's a statement.
Yes. And I'm just like, no. Like, so, and I've actually been, kind of what you were talking about, like some of these trade companies that maybe have lots of trucks on the road, but don't actually have like a true proper logo. That's a huge error because people aren't going to recognize you and they're not going to get to know who you are. Or too many versions. On the other hand, I've seen other companies that have 6 versions. They're like, oh, well, then I had my niece redo it because I didn't have it in a PNG, and they just had to just put it together and just try to make it look like it. I've seen that way too many times that I'm like, stop it, please. I've especially seen that with real estate agents, especially having just a lot of different
butchers
logos.
of graphic design. They are in that industry.
Yes. Or logos that are too busy are really a big problem, I think. People try to get very detailed and sometimes include like full pictures of things in logos. And I think that's a big mistake for people, because I think people need to be able to recognize it and be able to see it, and even on all sorts of different scales too. Yeah, whether it's on a billboard or an icon on your app, like something that's very small, something that's very, very detailed isn't going to register within an iPhone app or some of these small kind of media that logos can take.
You need to know the space that you're in.
Exactly.
To capture the person's attention. A logo shouldn't be busy, because if it's busy, it's just too confusing. I would say the only instance where graphic design makes sense to be as crazy and as busy is on the beer bottle on the shelf.
Yes. Yeah.
And also wine.
You're trying to throw out a flag there to get as much attention.
You're grabbing the person's eye from when they're walking by
in a crowded space.
In a very crowded space.
Right.
That's the only time I would say having insane amount of detail makes sense.
Yes.
From a graphic design element. But when it comes to like infographics, logo design, packaging design, simple, less is more.
Well, yeah, and you think about, I mean, even in traditional, like, signage, right? You have a second to hook someone, and if they can't identify it immediately, you lost them. And then it's only become more prevalent online, too, because on social and on a website, you have a second or two to hook them, and then they're gone, right?
Now, with that, though, I guess this is a segue into font selection, because some people use fonts as the logo, and they try to keep it simple. Or, like, we had a real estate agent that we did a logo for, and I know she liked the idea of having a script font, but from a design standpoint, when you make a big real estate sign and you have a script font, it's going to be very hard to read from a distance.
Yeah.
Right.
And also trying to make that into a sign, people have to almost, like, if they're driving, they have to squint to almost read what it is, what your brand is, versus having big block letters or stuff that's just easy to read. So certain fonts make sense, and certain fonts do not. Like, do not use Comic Sans, for example.
Ever.
What is it? Wingdings?
Yes.
You remember that?
Yes. Oh yeah, getting real crazy with it.
What would you say are some fonts that people are using a lot more, kind of modern, crisp, clean looks for new businesses? What would you recommend these days?
Yeah, so I love fonts. I can talk about fonts all day long. I'm not going to, but I could. But yeah, definitely modern and clean and minimal fonts are really, really popular right now. Obviously, Helvetica is the most used font in the world, actually, which is a fun fact. But my current favorite font right now is Museo Sans. That's my current favorite font.
Interesting.
MUSEO.
How is it different from Open Sans or any other sans?
So it's just very clean and it's very balanced. It's on Adobe fonts.
It looks like something I would see on a wine bottle for some reason. I don't know why.
Well, I like wine, so I mean, that's why.
That makes sense.
But if you think about font selection, if you look at, I'll say a prime example, you look at high-end brands.
Right.
Like if you go to Rolex's website, they don't obviously use Helvetica or Times New, or obviously they don't use Comic Sans on a Rolex website, but their font almost speaks luxury, clean and crisp.
Right.
Apple is the same way. Lamborghini, Aston Martin. I can go down the list as far as these super luxurious brands, but they spend a ton of time in font selection or have a designer design their own specific font.
Yes.
Because again, fonts do have copyrights.
Yes.
So you can't just go find, well, you can and use it. Obviously, it's your notion, but you also have to be careful about that, because using a font without buying it or having the rights to it can also screw you. But having the right font with the right logo does make sense.
Definitely. But yeah, I think really right now, a lot of just really crisp, clean fonts are what's popular right now and have been for a while. And I think that trend will keep kind of going for a while.
Yep. How about brand colors, right? Because I think this is an area that business owners could really mess up. And but if it's executed well, brand colors can do a lot to elevate and
Yes.
immediately make the impression that
Or
you wanna
de-elevate and make the wrong impression.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
So, what kind of recommendations would you make when it comes to brand colors? I know it's a very open-ended question because you can go in a million directions,
Yes.
but talk
I
to me a
also
little
love
bit.
colors. But yeah, so colors and color theory is really important when you're looking at branding and your logo and things like that. And so I think really it's important because people have impressions and associations with colors, but those can be a lot of different things. Like, for example, so red can be a very powerful color, a very masculine color, but it can also be kind of like romantic and fun and like stuff like that. So I think the important thing to remember with colors is that it all kind of depends on the imagery you're putting with it. So that's kind of my basic approach to colors. But then also you have to be really careful with using eccentric colors. Like, I think of like
What's considered eccentric color?
like pink.
Okay.
Like T-Mobile and their pink. They're the only like successful company I know that like uses like hot pink in their branding.
Yeah,
Something that's like very fluorescent, right? You gotta be
Yes,
careful.
yeah.
And that CEO of that guy won. He's crazy. If you see his style and who
He does like
is,
cooking videos or something, right?
he's an insane character. He's a character.
Yeah.
But he 100% goes with that brand color.
Right.
Everything, even his personal stuff at
Yeah.
home is that pink or whatever that color is.
Neon pink.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Like their stores hurt my eyes if you drive by and you see. I feel bad for the employees working in that store because of just the soreness in the eyes, like just how bright and just pink. It's just like
Right.
I wouldn't like it working
But
there.
yeah, so I think if done well, it can be really powerful, like T-Mobile's hot pink logo.
Yep.
But I would not recommend something like that for just like a brand new startup, someone who's not established, someone who doesn't have a built brand history or things like that. I think you can start to take more risks and more liberties whenever you already have a brand following and
you have billions of dollars in your pocket.
exactly, and can pay some huge major ad agency to do it.
Yeah.
So
like they did years ago when with IHOP, and they flipped the P and the B, right?
Yes,
that marketing
yes.
campaign they did.
It was genius.
I loved
yeah,
it.
it was smart, and it got huge attention.
Yeah.
They paid, I don't know what it was probably 25 grand fee or, 250 grand fee to whatever agency that did it for him. But the subtle difference, right, of the two,
Right, yeah.
got a lot of attention. People were like, "What's going on? What's it about?"
They actually kept a funny side story about that.
They kept the one store.
The one store where they did that, it actually still is called that. It's still an IHOP,
cool.
of course,
Yeah.
but
Right.
they did that and they kept it as a joke because it was such a great marketing piece.
Yeah.
So
There you go.
Yeah.
So interesting. Okay, so color, being careful about the colors you choose. Because I've heard things like blue is, generally speaking, trust, right? Would engender trust with people.
Right.
But I guess it depends on the type of blue. It depends on the
Right.
situation.
Because blue can also be very like serene and spa-like and things like that. Like blue, there's so many variations of the color blue.
Yeah,
It's hard to just like, oh, blue is this. Like, and that's part of why I love color is it is very interesting and is very complex.
But like plumbing should never use brown as far as in their
Right,
branding.
yeah.
If you think about
Context, man.
it, context is everything. But if the plumber is coming off as a joke and that is his branding, sure, that might work.
Right.
But like I would say here's another company that sticks to one color.
Yeah.
UPS. What can brown do for you? And that is in their marketing and the branding.
Right.
Why they went that way, I don't know the whole story behind it. I think it's the most disgusting color ever, as far as from the outfits and all that stuff were. But
worked for 'em, though.
it's worked
It's a
for them.
look.
They made it into a brand. What can
Yeah.
brown do for you?
Yep.
Because it's a noticeable outfit, or that is their branding. Versus FedEx is purple, maybe, and sometimes
And
green, orange. But you could definitely tell who is a UPS driver versus a FedEx driver from a distance. So
Exactly.
smart branding on their part.
Yep. Let's talk a little about like kind of other material that goes along. So the company redesigns a logo, figures out color, figures out font, right? what other deliverables should a new business have when it comes to business cards, right? Other print collateral, because you know, print is not totally dead, right? There's still definitely a place for print. Yeah. And if it's executed well, and we even have clients that run a couple print ads in certain publications if it makes sense, right? So if it's like highly targeted niche marketing. Yeah. But talk to me a little bit about how you help clients with print materials or those kind of designs.
Yeah, definitely. So print is very interesting because it isn't dead, but it needs to be done well because print can also get very expensive very quickly. Especially if you're looking at 10,000 piece mailers and things like that, it just gets so expensive. And so I definitely think print collateral is really interesting because I think it has to be focused on providing value, whatever that means for that company. So obviously business cards are important, especially if you're out doing networking events and things like that. You still need that tangible business card.
And don't use Vistaprint to design your business card. Because the right business card can also make an impression.
Yes, exactly.
Because you've seen everyone who's been to a network meeting or event with sole purpose is to network, whether it's a Chamber of Commerce meeting, BNI, whatever other network type event, everyone has received that shitty business card. Yeah. And the likelihood of you doing business with that person, honestly, is probably not great. Because if you're going to put that much effort into your business card, you're probably not going to put that much effort into your business. Right. If it's just a subtle subconscious thing that people think about. Right. I'm just going to throw it away. Yeah. So versus the some person usually the marketing agencies tend to have the best business cards because I'm bragging here. But every person I've received a business card from that came from they work for a marketing agency tend to have really well thought out. I mean, it makes sense.
They need to, right?
They have to.
You need to. Yeah. You need to show that to people.
Right.
But this is where your brand color's playing well, your logo, all that stuff. Because again, you have a tiny, tiny space. If you have a really detailed logo, it's not really going to be very easy to see or understand that tiny, tiny space. Yeah. So.
Well, and I think that's interesting too, people trying to put too much information on their business card. I've seen people put like full mission statements and full information on cards. And I'm like, no, just put your website. And then just send them there. Yeah.
Put your mission statement on your website. No one's going to do business with you just because they read your mission statement on your fucking business card.
Exactly. Sorry, exactly. And I'm like, no, just take it all.
Keep it simple.
Simple. Less is more nowadays. It might change in 20 years for all I know, but less is more. And I keep going down the rabbit hole or bashing real estate agents because they're notorious for bad marketing tactics. So that's why it's very easy to point out and for people to get understand examples because they've all seen it. Right. Like with a real estate agent business card, they have to put every realtor designation on there. And every bit of text or multi-million-dollar listing. They have a photo from them from the 70s, the glamour photo they have yet to update. And you meet the agent like, wait a second, is that you? Right. I mean, you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, I do.
Lots of hairspray.
Oh my God.
Some big hair.
Jesus.
On like a really cheesy backdrop, like that's like.
It's the laser backdrop.
Understand with some states there's compliance, like you have to have a fax number and address. And I understand
Equal
that.
housing logo, stuff like
right.
that.
But those are allowed to be certain sizes and allowed to be really small. Yes. But you don't need all these things on it. To make you look, because at the end of the day, nowadays, less is more. And if I get a whole thing of business cards, the way people consume information, they want to do it fast. They have their attention span is a lot shorter. Yeah. They want instant gratification. So if I have two business cards in front of me, and one is super simple to read, less text, versus one that looks like a damn novel, I'm probably going to go to the one that has less text because I have to do less thinking and less effort to get to what it is I need versus have to go through all your garbage BS on your card. I'm going to call this agent. Yep. So, I mean, that's even from the design that we take with our metal business cards. Usually I try to, people always want to put as much as they can on this metal business card because, I'm spending all this money and you put as much money, much information on it as possible. I'm like, no. Yeah. You want to put
not the point.
Straight contact info because the card itself is the presentation, the physical aspect of it. So, and majority of the time people like, all right, I'll go by your judgment. You're the expert. I'm like, thank you.
Right.
And then we design the card and they love it. Versus then when they get the card and they want it their way, when they get it, they're like, I don't like it. I'm like, well, I told you. So
exactly. Yeah. Well, about a few other types of print marketing pieces. I think brochures and booklets can be really helpful if they're explaining processes and explaining some information about your business. I would not recommend big booklets or anything if you're just like handing them out to everyone. It's a waste of money. I think they're good for if you have a sit-down meeting with someone and are sitting here talking one-to-one, and then you're like, okay, here's kind of a review of what we talked about, a little bit more information. Let me know if you have any questions about any of this.
More as like a leaving piece.
Exactly.
Or it's like a one-pager or something.
Yeah. So I think that's still a good area for flyers.
Not the trifold. I think those are outdated and need to go away.
Yeah. I'm a fan of like more extensive booklets that really go into detail about things that are much more of like a solid piece rather than here's little bios about every single person in our company, like things like that. I think explaining things like, for me personally, like my creative process, here's expectations for working with clients, and a little bit about how I work and how we can move forward, that sort of thing, after I meet with someone. Or again, I've worked with a lot of real estate agents, being in-house for 2 different real estate firms. So like explaining, here's the entire closing process about
next steps. Yeah.
Yes.
Totally.
Like things like that are really beneficial, or the mortgage process, things like that. Yep. So I think there's some unique opportunities that print can offer. But I think there's a lot of other people using print when they should switch to other platforms.
Yeah.
They're just stuck in their old ways.
Or just taking what you like old print material and just putting it in digital, which is like the worst thing you could do.
Yeah.
Right? So.
Yeah. But I will say too, it does also depend on who your target audience is, because if you have a significantly older client base that really likes having that nice trifold brochure.
Yeah. You gotta account for that.
Yeah. So I think that's something
Know your market.
Yep.
Exactly. And so that's where me as a graphic designer, I like to come in, and I've had some clients that I've worked with that are older people that are like, I need to get in front of the kids and stuff like this. And it's like, okay. But like they have a significantly older client base, and I'm like, okay, let's stick with what you know on some things like that. And so I think it all depends about that. And that's where I come in as a designer, is try to help advise, because sometimes they'll get in their mind what they want, and here I help them logic through what's going to actually work for them.
Yep.
I would say one thing that a lot of businesses don't do from a design standpoint, don't do at all, is contracts or proposal letters. So like our contract is is a thought out from a design element. It's not just text. It's got a process to it. It leads the person through, because it's almost, it's the second sale. Yes, we had the meeting with the client, and then obviously they want the proposal. So we send the proposal, it has all the terms in it, but it's not just the terms, it's more to resell them on us if they had any sort of doubt, and hopefully that convinces them. But from the design element, it keeps that person inside that document. I suppose if you just send them a bulleted list and it was black and white and had your logo at the top right and your contact information, if I'm looking for a service and I have 4 other companies competing on it, what's going to stand out? Because you're not able to speak while that person's making the decision amongst the 4 other people who are playing in the same boat. So having a really well thought out proposal or contract or whatever you want to use or call it is definitely also going to help. But having a graphic designer design it for you in the right manner makes sense.
Yeah, and actually, it especially
not to use one of the free templates that are on like Word or Pages. Hire a graphic designer to design it for you.
And even like, I think a lot of B2B businesses make that mistake, because B2B can kind of come off as boring, and it's like, since we're appealing to businesses and not like direct to consumer,
I could be more.
I can just put it in a memo, right? It's like, that's not how this works. Right?
It's still the same person. That B2C customer.
It's still a client.
It's still a client.
It's a customer somewhere.
There's a customer somewhere. They're going to make a decision in their business as they do in their life. So you need to be able to cater to that person, to want to convince them. Everything you do is from a marketing standpoint.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
I have a few more thoughts on design that we haven't got into.
What's that?
That would be, it's a lot of people miss it or they take it for granted because they just subconsciously don't know they're being sold by it, but packaging design.
Yes.
So how do you sell the client when you can't be physically there to speak to them on a retail shelf? So you walk into Walmart, Kroger, Target, or Target as some people call it. How do you convince that person to buy your product amongst your competitor who's literally sitting right next to you?
Yeah.
Might be cheaper, might be more expensive, whatever. And the person's going to pick up the product and they're going to judge it based off the way the packaging design is. The copy, as we talked about copy in our last that is a huge important factor. The logo and the way the product as far as the packaging feels and the way it looks, what captures your attention. It's the same thing with buying a wine off the shelf. People are going to usually buy the coolest label. Unlike James, who's a wine snob, he has understand as far as, this is a good wine. It might have the shittiest logo ever or design, but it'd be the best tasting wine.
So wine's interesting though, right? Because it's not like beer. So if somebody has like a super creative, ridiculous label, a lot of people look at it and be like, whoa, that can't be good, right? Because they're trying really hard with it, right? But it's not always the case in IPAs, right? Like, I don't know if you've ever had a Commonwealth IPA. A couple of my good friends are big fans of it, but it's down in Virginia Beach. And theirs is this crazy, matte finish, colorful, can, right?
Yeah.
And that's what it does. It stands out. So the product matters. The space you're in definitely matters, right? Do you have any thoughts on that or speak to that at all?
Yeah, so package is definitely very interesting and definitely a unique kind of form of design. I'm not an expert on packaging design, but
you've designed a box for us.
I have designed a box for you.
I have it here. I want to show you afterwards.
Oh, cool! I'm excited.
It looks legit.
Real cool.
Yeah. Oh, good.
Yeah. Well, and so in that case, right, in what you designed for Lux, right, since we are an e-commerce business, for a lot of clients, the first time they're actually experiencing the product itself, that unboxing, that experience is nowadays a big deal for e-commerce.
Yeah.
There's multiple times you sell the client or customer on your product. So you have the first sale, which is say it's a retail shelf or even on an e-commerce standpoint where you have a picture of the box. Yeah. Whatever it is, to get the person to buy the product. Cool. They bought it. Now what's the next point of contact? Them opening the unboxing experience. Now there are whole YouTube channels on YouTube to just unbox.
They have millions of subscribers. They just
unbox therapy. Are you kidding me? So for example, unbox therapy, they focus mostly on tech related stuff. Yeah. The guy's got 12, 15 million subscribers, gets all these companies to send him free shit. Yeah. All the stuff he has in the studio, he probably doesn't even buy anymore because studios are paying him, companies are paying him to do these reviews on their products and he gets to keep it. Some of the stuff is just ridiculous, but he talks about the unboxing and he describes it and explains it. But that itself is a sell because if you have just a piece of cardboard box and some packaging material to keep it secure, that's not exciting. You're just going to toss it away. Versus when you buy an Apple product, whether you hate it or you love it, when you buy an Apple product, if you ever owned one and you open it, the packaging itself it's
you don't want to throw it away.
You don't throw it away. And actually it's become
people have stacks of Apple boxes.
I do.
I do too. Actually.
Down in here, there's every Apple product I have bought, I have kept the box because when it comes to even to resell it, a lot of people find the value in keeping the original box for whatever reason. Yeah. Why? But it's almost made its own whole market. Yeah. And there are places on eBay you can buy just the boxes, so you can.
That's really funny.
It's stupid, but again, it's an experience, and it shows quality to what it is.
Definitely.
So with our redesign on packaging for Lux Metal Card, we could they're heavy. We could just put the cards and shrink wrap them, put them in a box, and then ship it to the customer because it's just business cards, whatever. But that's not what the brand is. So I wanted to make an experience because yes, giving the card is an experience, but let's get when the person gets it, they have that holy shit moment or oh shit, this is amazing. I just spent $500 on 100 business cards. I wanted to give them.
It needs to match that.
It needs to match that.
The quality needs to match.
So that's the way we designed it. I took the Apple-esque way and gave you my vision.
Yeah.
And you made it into reality. So, like on the inside has like hard foam versus just like some cheap styrofoam. It's a nice hard rigid box, and then on the outside is another covering that has like a pull tab to protect it. I mean, it looks amazing. And then we're just going to shrink wrap the whole thing.
Nice.
It looks like we're shipping a laptop essentially.
Yeah.
But also designing that package has reduced our packaging time by like 10 minutes.
So it's good operationally, and it's good from a design perspective.
It actually costs the same as what we're doing now, but now we're saving 10 minutes on packaging time.
Yeah.
And the quality and the feel and the impression is way better. So
definitely.
That's a whole nother topic as far as packaging design.
Yeah.
I just want to get in it because that is a design element that a lot of people just don't realize they're being sold to on anything you buy from a retail standpoint.
Yeah.
And that's a whole $1 billion market on its own as far as packaging.
Yep.
Well, and I think that's the thing to think about and focus on with packaging is that user experience. Whether it's the nice product on the shelf at Target that's next to the much cheaper version but has a label that looks like it's a lot cheaper, is really focusing on that user experience as well.
It might convince the person, maybe I'll spend $10 more to get the better quality because it looks better quality versus the $5 version.
Yeah. Well, it's like Moo does this, right? Moo with their experience of opening it up versus Vistaprint.
You should buy
it's like Vistaprint's in that cardboard, like whatever.
Yes.
You should buy Lux first over Moo, but
had to throw that out there.
Of course, I'm not going to talk about they're technically a competitor of ours.
Yeah.
Even though they don't make metal cards, but
there's still a place for paper
end.
Cards, but yes, metal
some of their
is,
cards get to the same price as ours as far as per card.
Yeah.
So they buy Lux first.
Yes. Well, and that's actually interesting. When I was thinking about packaging design this morning, as I was kind of prepping for this today, I just ordered one of my like quarantine projects was designing a scrapbook actually from all my like old photos from college, doing like a nice college scrapbook. And have you guys heard of the company Artifact Uprising?
I haven't.
They're like one of my favorite. They do like high-end scrapbooks and printing and stuff like that. And their stuff is just beautiful.
What's it called again?
Artifact Uprising. Yeah, they're really great.
Name.
And so I spent quite a bit of money having this book printed, but it came yesterday, and it's like kind of what you were saying. Like it's in this nice box, it's in a sleeve, and then whenever I like took the sleeve off, opened this nice white box, and then it's in this like nice opaque like but translucent paper, and then it's like this whole experience, and I'm like, yeah, this was worth the money I paid for it.
Yeah. Basically,
versus like a Shutterfly book that like just kind of comes tucked in a sleeve. And I've used Shutterfly before; they're fine, but I'm like, oh, I like these. I like these ones.
And in the same, again, you spent a certain dollar amount, so you expect to get quality.
Exactly.
It's the same thing with Rolex. Like their packaging. Like one, you don't get rid of that box. Of any box you don't get rid because one, you lose like $750 of value if you don't have the box with it. So, and I mean, I still have mine. I hope you still have yours.
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mine's in my safe. So like
it's where I have all the extra links is what, because I had to take out a bunch of
you keep everything of that for that aspect. So, but again, it's an impression, and it keeps, and people just high value to that too. So
and if business owners are listening, the 3 millennials have spoken. If you're selling to millennials and you have terrible packaging, you will not get any more sales.
Right, but for real though, like
it does depend on your industry. You should not use it as an excuse to not do it. But like Amazon, for example, they have launched their whole Amazon Basics line, and they're getting more and more. I've noticed a lot more things that I buy, Amazon Basics item shows up, whether it's batteries, pillows, or bed sheets, anything that's basic utility as far as for your home. Their packaging is very basic, but they show at a basic price.
But they're going low cost.
They're going low cost.
Yeah, so it's just like Walmart, right? You're not going to expect a ton, right? So because it's price sensitivity.
But you're not Amazon. So you need to compete with Amazon.
Yeah,
Exactly.
And
exactly.
if you're a small business, the reality is you're probably not going after the lowest of the low as far as price
You
points.
shouldn't.
So,
Right.
You shouldn't.
yeah,
Exactly.
That's a
So,
waste of time and waste of money.
Yeah.
You should be going for the market that pays you the most amount of money for the less amount of time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's just business
Mhm.
101.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I do have a few logos I want to bring up.
Yes.
I searched, 30 worst logo or top 30 bad logos chart, corporate logo fails. So I'm going to share screen here. Let's bring it up. And I'll put a link this on the blog. Share screen. Alrighty. I'll bring it up here. Can all right.
Oh.
So first one is Kraft Foods.
Is that the Kraft? Or is
Yeah.
that a different? I don't recognize that
Is
logo
that an
at all.
old version?
Make today delicious.
Yikes.
I think
That's
that's too,
interesting.
in my opinion, I think we'll review like 10 of these, not all
Yeah.
30.
Yeah.
But like, I think one, there's way too many colors.
Oh, way too many.
It's confusing. Yes, I know it's foods, but this seems more like a logistical food company to me than it does like an actual food brand that I'm going to buy
Right.
food. That's just what I get
Was
from it.
this like a new redesign or is this from like the 90s? Do we know?
Some of these are old, some of them are new.
'Cause they got that Amazon.
They do. They have the little smile.
But see, Amazon
it looks
has,
like a hardcore
but
robot.
the K to T doesn't make sense versus the Amazon.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't realize
Yeah.
they have it A to Z because they sell everything from A to
Yes.
Z.
Yep.
That's why they did it. So there is intention, and a lot of people don't know
Yes.
Yeah.
that. Versus this makes no sense.
Yeah.
New York Taxi. It's I somewhat get it, but it's very
Yeah.
boring. But I can think all New York taxis are. So
You can read it when it's going by fast. I mean,
yeah.
that
Bing.
NYC font's really bad.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
awful. Bing, actually, they still have this logo. That doesn't. I mean, Microsoft doesn't make a lot of great decisions, in my opinion, on certain things, and this is one of them. Here's one.
What?
What even is that?
Do you not see what's going on here?
That is visually not what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Oh, Yikes.
Like, what are you thinking?
The next one is
Nope.
worse. Locum.
Oh, no.
It's a Swedish property
Oh,
manager. That's supposed to be an O.
Not good.
Oh, no.
Uh,
Like, did nobody catch that? Like, that's just
I don't
So-
understand.
in the this again, it says is a Swedish property management company. So in Sweden, that might
Right.
not be. They speak Swedish or
Right.
whatever. I don't know the language, but I know they're not speaking our native tongue as far as how Americans think and operate.
They
So
have different slang.
I'll leave it there. So this might work in Sweden, but not in the U.S. So know who your target market is because this is being targeted to someone else
right.
than what you think it is.
Verizon.
Verizon. It's noticeable because Verizon has the billions of dollars to market this.
When do you think they did this logo? Do you know?
I don't know.
I don't know.
So, like, obviously, the text, the font is like very old school font,
Right.
And then
and
you
this
have-
check mark.
I just love the like italics, like the slightly italicized.
Yes.
It's like an old IT company. Is what
Yeah.
it reminds me
Yeah.
of.
It's Google says it came out in 2000.
2000. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm
Which-
surprised they haven't rebranded. That's interesting.
Yeah.
All right. NSW government. I don't understand it, but okay. It's a flower.
Ooh, MSN. Yes.
Oh.
Microsoft again.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Them gradients.
They're all about
those-
these
Yeah,
colors,
gradients,
man. Wow. Okay. Comprehensive healthcare.
Yeah. Too much
Talking
happening there.
Too detailed.
Yep.
Getting way too detailed in there.
Yeah.
Yep.
London Olympics
What are we even looking at here?
2012. It's if it takes a while for your
Oh,
your
2012. Okay.
yeah. See, but if that wasn't there, you would not understand
Yeah.
what it's trying
No.
to say.
Yeah.
Pathmark.
I
Great
don't know
food,
what
great
that
value,
is.
bad logo. Like this tells me nothing about your brand.
Yeah.
Well, what
nothing.
it's apparently it's something to do with food and value. This might be a retail store.
Yeah.
Oh, that's bad.
Oh yeah. Looks like someone just like drew that on a paper and just scanned it in.
Oh, this is a good Pepsi. This makes sense. Oh, that's not good either.
Yeah, not good. What is it with these stick figures here?
Yeah.
Wow, that was
Great.
Gap's logo in 2010.
That's weird.
Oh.
That doesn't. This looks more like a software company
Yeah.
than it does a
Does.
clothing company.
Yeah. Wait,
the-
is that
It looks
like
like
a play
En-
on Enron?
I
Is
think
that what
so.
it is that a real business?
I think it is.
This might be a joke logo, but I like it because if it's Enron, right?
Yeah.
Like out of business.
Number 14.
Ooh,
Horrible.
Not good.
Horrible. This is
Nope.
having the.
Hard pass.
This is like clip art and just everything wrong about
Lots
it.
of innuendos. And stuff. Not
Oh,
good.
this one's really bad.
Oh, jeez.
You don't understand the
Oh. No.
Again, don't be cheap with your logo. And
Run it through multiple people.
multiple
Yes.
people, and
I mean,
even people
come
with
on.
different. Yeah, the same thing with this
Yeah.
one.
Definitely with that one.
No.
Pizza salad panini. No, this doesn't. Or that one. All right, I'm actually going. These
Oh.
are so good. I just keep going through them.
It's the stick figures, man.
Yeah,
And,
they
like,
just-
just avoid
Yeah,
stick figures
yeah,
in
no.
any position.
This one's
In
worse.
any position.
I see a theme to this article.
Yeah.
So, but again, Hilton's in here. I can see
that's
what
just
they.
kind of weird.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Actually, I still think this is their logo.
They just rebranded actually.
Oh, they did.
Did they?
Okay. I wonder how much
Like
that cost.
really recently.
Wonder how much that cost
Um,
him.
A lot.
A lot of money. The detail doctor.
With not much detail.
Papyrus. Never use papyrus font.
It looks. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, you can tell.
Yeah, that's. This is clip art probably, and then this is
With some
PowerPoint.
papyrus on top.
Oh yeah, the
Portland
Trailblazers. Yeah,
Trailblazers.
it's been around for a long time. Eventually they'll fix it. Oh,
Number 6.
have you seen? Oh my gosh, have you seen the Bulls logo upside down?
Yes.
Chicago
yes, I
Bulls
saw a
logo
meme
upside
about
down.
that.
Yeah. Google it. It's the Bulls logo upside down,
Yes.
and it's like you'll never unsee what you
Yeah.
see.
Wow, it's an actual search term.
It was
Yeah,
like it was
Oh boy.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a robot and a crab. That's what it is.
I'll never unsee that now.
Yeah, forever. That's what you'll see.
yeah.
Jesus. All right.
But you know what? In their defense, the reality is that took like 40 years for somebody to identify.
Yeah,
And it took
yeah.
years and years of like just people on the
Right.
internet having nothing to do, trying to come
Right.
up with memes.
But then someone found it.
someone
and
found it.
Some-
Now it's forever.
That or someone was probably drunk and they fell upside down
Yeah.
and like and were really high and stoned and they noticed that. Now we all see it.
Exactly.
Here's another one.
No,
This is
no,
where
no,
font selection
no.
and spacing
Yes.
makes sense.
Yeah.
You're
Here's
just like showing anyone
right.
the logo before you put it anywhere. Like,
Not good.
Not
Again,
good.
the people. We gotta avoid positions and people. That is terrible.
just avoid that.
Oh, I've seen this one before.
No.
That's bad too.
That's terrible.
Oh, and then of course the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Do you know I think it was the Browns was bought for $100 in for like this is when like football first started. I think it was around for like a couple of years. The person who had the Browns sold it to someone else for $100, and it's been in that family ever since.
Holy cow.
So $100 turned to
And it's
$1
still
billion.
now it's worth like $110, so that's good.
It's still it's almost every football franchise is almost $1 billion.
Yeah,
So
yeah. With
But-
shared revenue from good thing they share revenue among teams, because otherwise. All right, we want to do our meme review.
yes. So all right, who's first this time? I went first last time. So what do you
yeah.
use? Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
we'll
So
go
the whole
on.
point of this is on a scale of 1 to 10.
Okay.
You could give decimals, so you could do 7.4, 7.5, 10, not 10.1, 9.4. I'm going to show you the meme.
Okay.
just explained what you see, because some people don't, or who listen obviously can't see it.
Or why don't we set it up for her, is what we'll do.
We'll do that.
So I'll explain mine, you explain yours, right?
And then I will cue the music.
Okay.
And then you give us your thoughts behind it. And then you tell us when you're ready for a score. I'll play another sound, and then you'll give us the score.
Okay,
So-
sounds good.
All right, we'll start with James.
So we were talking earlier about font selection, the importance of font selection, how the color red.
Yes.
This is like exactly what you were talking about, right?
I'll talked about this beforehand.
I
so
did.
you-
I did it.
We
And
did
it was
it.
so perfect. But as you were saying it, I was like, yes, my meme will fit. So the top of the meme says, fonts matter, has a very nice, elegant script font. You'll always be mine, with a nice heart next to it
Yes, it's red.
in red text, right? And then below it, you have the serial killer font. And that's you'll always be mine. ...
In red.
Red blood stain next to it.
The imagery, man.
So fonts and context matters.
Yes.
All right. So are you ready? I'm going to cue
am.
the music.
I am.
So let's see if you recognize that tone. Do you recognize where this is from?
Yes. Oh gosh. Oh no.
What
It's a
show?
game show.
It's a game show.
You know what? I can't think
Who
of
Wants
it.
to Be a Millionaire?
You want a lifeline? Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
I do have
Didn't
that.
even get the
Actually, this is the lifeline.
There it is.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
That's the question. Anyways,
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
On a scale of 1 to 10,
Okay. I'm gonna.
how
give
do you
this-
rate this meme?
I'm gonna give this an 8.8.
Wow.
I also am a graphic designer, so
That's the highest
This
score.
means-
we
Know
think
your
we've had.
audience.
this
Know your
means a lot to
audience.
me.
Okay, so 8.8.
Nice. Nice.
All right. Now it's my turn. All right. So it says, create a design which properly communicate the message. And then to the right of that is a picture of Magneto. And it says, tell me the most important duties of a graphic designer. And I'm describing this poorly.
Keep going.
It's from right to left. I realized that. All right. So from the right side, it says, tell me the most important duties of a graphic designer. And then it says, create a design in which properly communicates the message. And then I said the most important, choose the right typeface and colors, align everything perfectly. And then never delete a source file. That's perfect. So I know this is not going to be as great as a score as 8.8, or I could be wrong. But you're a graphic designer. How often do you deal with stuff like this?
Pretty often. Pretty often.
How many times?
because they want to change, right?
Yeah,
That's the thing,
yeah.
right? And you have to.
You
keep
always
all
have
the
to be able to
files.
go.
And you think everything's fine for a period of time, and then you're lulled
Right.
into a.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. I'm gonna give this a 6.8.
Oh.
Sorry.
Oh, that's all right.
It is relevant though. It's
is
very
relevant.
relevant.
Oh, very good. Very good. Well, we will post some memes, right? Have we been doing that? Have we been posting the memes?
They're on the page.
Oh,
Do you even
yes.
go to the
Yeah,
website? when I do?
Yeah.
Well,
But we haven't put a vote, like we haven't put a poll question up. We should put a poll question. So we should,
Yeah.
especially with this one.
when we
Yeah.
get more viewership, I'll put where people can vote.
There we go.
Yes.
There we go.
When people actually listen to our podcast, then yeah.
Parting shot. SpaceX, as we speak, is sending someone into space.
2 people
Cool.
in space. The
That
first
is pretty
private
cool.
company.
Yeah, to go to the International Space Station. Right?
It launches in the next 2 hours.
Oh wow.
So with all hell breaking loose on the
By
globe,
the way-
they decided we're out.
Heading out.
We're out.
From design standpoint, see if I can find it. Interior of SpaceX capsule.
Probably looks more attractive than the
Whole,
International
this
Space
is where
Station.
design
Oh.
comes into play. Like if you look at the inside of a NASA space shuttle,
Yeah.
it looks like a
Well,
government
it's
made
very
it.
utilitarian.
Right,
They have like
yeah.
all of the functions.
But then when you take Elon Musk's version of it, is the fucking Tesla of
it's
space
like a
travel.
MacBook
Hell
Pro.
yeah.
It is like a MacBook Pro. Like the spacesuits, everything, the functionality just looks amazing.
Yeah.
And it looks like something you would see in a sci-fi movie of what
Yeah.
you'd want space travel to be like versus what you see in NASA. It's just all clunky. And
Yeah.
again, everything by the government's built by the lowest bidder. So understand that.
Now,
Hey,
hopefully,
gotta stay on brand. I mean,
So
Hopefully it has all the safety requirements, though.
I'm fairly, it's a private entity, so I'm fairly confident their safety.
Well, they actually, NASA actually approved it. That they went through the final checks today, which was like for launch. So that is pretty cool, though. It's like a roller coaster.
It looks like something you would see in a movie.
Yeah.
So
that's cool.
Super cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Bekah, thank you so much for joining.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, we
this
appreciate
was fun.
all your insights. So very cool. And stay tuned next week, episode 8. Do we have a plan for episode 8?
Yeah, we're going to be talking about Google.
Oh, another special guest? Is that?
No, we're talking about Google and Google listings and
that's right.
Google reviews.
Yes.
People suck at it.
And nowadays, that's gospel to people, right?
Yes.
So, awesome. Hey, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
And thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Yep.
And that's a wrap.
Thanks for tuning in. Like what you're hearing? Then make sure to subscribe on iTunes and YouTube. Stay tuned to next week's episode from the Agency Podcast.